SBR, do you mean sequence batch reactor?
Yes, kakak.
Okay, do you want me to share a story about sequence batch reactor?
Yes, I want.
Okay, let's hear the story.
When we feel thirsty and we drink water, and also when we're taking a shower, then after we do something, we wash our hands, and not to forget it, when you're flushing the toilet, and also how the leachate water from the solid waste are being treated. But I wonder how we can get all that water resource to do various activities in our daily life. Let me think about that first. I remember we have sewage treatment plant. So, one of the method to treat the wastewater is by doing the sequencing batch reactor, or we call it as SBR. Did you guys know what is SBR? It is a sequencing batch reactor, which is a field and drive activated sludge system for a wastewater treatment. Next, wastewater is added to a single batch reactor and treated to remove undesirable components and then discharge it. A single batch reactor, it involves equalization, then aeration, and lastly, clarification. SBR can treat both municipal and industrial. So, here is an example of sewage treatment plant, which is sequencing batch reactor, or we call it as SBR.
Okay adik, let's moving on to the history of SBR.
It all started in the year 1914 when Arden, Lockett and Fowler found out that the sewage system at Manchester is inefficient and requires a lot of space. Therefore, they designed a new system, which is called the fill and draw process system, and this system is the early model of the sequential batch reactor SBR. Later, in year 1950, Pasveer and his co-workers decided to improve the system by integrating the interrupted and continuously fed batch treatment principles into the system. While in 1970, further development of the SBR systems occurs in Australia and also the United States of America with the aid of EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. And finally, EPA Sequential Batch Reactor Design Manual is completed in the year 1988 and 1992.
Kakak, but how it works?
Okay, let's see.
For the first cycle, which is filled, the primary effluent will be either pumped in or allowed to flow in by gravity. The feed volume is determined based on a number of factors including desired loading and detention time and expected settling characteristics of the organism. Then the biological reaction happens. Sludge wasting will take place during this period as a simple means for controlling the sludge age. Sludge will be removed from the reactor as a means of maintaining or decreasing the volume of sludge in the reactor and decreases the solid's volume.
Settle is typically provided under quiescent conditions in the SBR. In some cases, gentle mixing during the initial stages of settling may result in a clearer effluent and a more concentrated settled sludge. In an SBR, there are no influent or effluent currents to interfere with the settling process as in a conventional activated sludge system. The draw steps uses a decanter to remove the treated effluent, which is the primary distinguishing factor between different SBR manufacturers. In general, there are floating decanters and fixed decanters. Floating decanters offer several advantages over fixed decanters. The last step, which is the idle step. Idle step occurs between the draw and the fill steps, during which treated effluent is removed and influent wastewater is added. The length of the idle step varies depending on the influent flow rate and the operating strategy. Equalization is achieved during this step if variable idle times are used. I think that's all for the process of sequence batch reactor. I hope you learned something. Bye!
Now, let's proceed to the advantages of SBR. The first one, all treatment steps are done in single tank. And the second one is high efficiency for BOD, COD, total suspended particles, nitrogen and phosphorus. Then it's also high flexibility in operating system. The most important one is it's also cost savings. Next, it's less land requirement. And the last one, it's also possible to produce electric energy.
Disadvantages of SPR. First, low pathogen removal. Requires key personnel. No. Next, it also requires stable power supply and high maintenance. Then, its potential of discharge flooding, and the biogas is also explosive. Its potential of plugging the aeration devices, and it requires equalization of the SPR. No.
Hi everyone, my name is WAHIDAH binti ROSLAN. My metric number is 200361. I am from KPP year 2 and I'm going to make a conclusion based on what my friends had mentioned earlier. First, sequencing batch reactor system (SBR) is one of the common biological systems used to treat domestic wastewater due to its functionality and simplicity. SBR process utilizes a fill and draw reactor with complete mixing during the batch reaction step, and where the subsequent steps of aeration and clarification occur in the same tank. Second, all SBR systems have 5 steps in common. First, fill. Second, react, which is aeration. Third, settle, which is sedimentation or clarification. Fourth, draw. And last but not least is idle. All action in reactor occur at different sequence of time. Next, SBR is effective because first, it's simple and cost-effective design. Second, it requires minimum operator interaction. Third, it only needs small floor space. Fourth, it has good removal efficiency. And the list goes on, as HAFIZAH said earlier. Last but not least, do you want to know where SBR been applied in Malaysia? Don't worry, let me tell you. SBR has been applied in Jeram Sanitary Landfill to treat its leachate. The leachate will pump into treatment system that consists of 3 main stages. In primary stage, the leachate will pass through 3 equalization points, which is SBR. Meanwhile, in the secondary stage, it will undergo the same process but only involve 2 SBR. This is how SBR in Jeram Sanitary Landfill looks like. That's all from us. Thank you.
Kakak, I'm sleepy.
Oh, you are sleepy? Okay lah, I think that's all for today. Let's sleep!